Chapter 24. Ruby takes a long walk uptown. Once, when she was running north along the river, she thought she might keep going until she reached George Washington Bridge, but the immense structure seemed to get further away the more she advanced, and it was close to dark when she turned around, began the uneven trek back to her neighborhood in the West 90s. Today she starts on Broadway and just keeps walking past blocks that look similar enough to her own, taking notes of cafes she might come back to next week and consignment stores with last winter's designer jacket in the window. When she gets back to the unmistakable expanse of Columbia, Ruby pushes open a metal gate and steps into the university grounds. It is familiar in the way so much of New York is familiar. The sprawling steps and imposing buildings, having appeared in so many films and TV she has seen. She crosses the main courtyard, heading east, smiling at the small groups of students sitting alone or in clusters, wondering what they are studying today, thinking she too might like to start classes here in the fall if she decides to stay. Exiting the university, she turns towards home, following the western boundary of Morningside Park, marveling at the space this city makes for its people, knowing there is still so much for her to discover about New York. As Ruby makes her way to Amsterdam, the Cathedral Church of St. John, the Divine rises up before her, impossibly ornate among the low-rise buildings of modern residential New York. She has no time for God, but the church itself is so beautiful, so compelling, that Carissa leads up the wide stairs, through the thick double doors. Inside, the cavernous cathedral echoes with sunlight, a kaleidoscope flower beckoning her forward, and Ruby finds herself stunned at the vista. She scrambles for a $5 bill to put in the donation box at the entrance to the nave, and she shifts the weight to her toes, not wanting to clump her feet against the floor. Perhaps it would be different if the church were filled with worshippers, but here on this midweek afternoon she's only one of 20 or so people moving slowly along amongst the thick columns and arches. She feels a serenity she has not expected, a peacefulness despite the obvious grandeur of the church, and she remembers to look up. Quietly exploring the cathedral, a lump grows in Ruby's throat, expands until it feels painful to swallow. A wall of names, of dates and dashes, too many to speak out loud, makes her feel faint, and she considers sitting down, trying out a version of prayer to steady herself. But there's another woman standing here before this wall, before these names, and she's already praying, head bowed, tears streaming down her face. Ruby blinks back her own tears and moves on. When she arrives at the cathedral poet's corner, the lump in Ruby's throat finally dislodges, hot tears spilling over, causing the words etched across the stone tablets of the floor and walls to blur. She's standing before a memorial to the wordsmith of this country, the ones who have painstakingly translated the human experience into tiny, perfect sentences, writers who map the world and its sorrow with her words. Along, she reads loud quotes from those poets whose names she knows best. There's Millet with her songs and epitaphs, Dickinson describing captivity and consciousness, Emerson and Hemingway asking not only for truth, and Hugh with his soul deep as a river, Baldwin talking about disturbing the peace, and this Walt Whitman, a man and poet who so loved New York and was loved by New York in return. I stopped somewhere waiting for you. It is others who move away now, leaving the sobbing woman along with her poets and her sorrow, generations of writers reaching down to wrap their arms around her, gently pressing their means of survival into her veins. She invites Josh over as soon as she gets home, says she has something to tell him, but there are no words. When he walks into that tiny studio, fills it up, and she rushes at him, pours herself over his skin before he has a chance to say hello. When they make love the first time, they are clumsy, careful, learning their way around the new body before them, this new tangle of nerves. They laugh against each other's mouth and close their eyes when they should keep them open. But there is no embarrassment or hesitation in these hours of exploration. They teach each other, exploring, welcoming the lesson, and when Ruby comes against Josh's hand, she feels as if she is expanding into the vast, empty corners of her body, the hollow finally filled. I've been stopped here waiting for you, she whispers, but he is electric now, the blue light humming all through him, drowning out her emission. No matter, they will try this again and again, and they will get better at finding each other each and every time. Noah pays before my funeral. He does not attend the service itself, staying true to his claim that he will never visit Wisconsin, but he pays for the flowers and the casket and the sandwiches served after the burning of a body too, and asks only whether they might consider doing something special with my ashes. He talks of nebulae, a bright night sky, and dying stars, and nobody understands. Ruby, he says, we will have to do something ourselves for her. On the day of the funeral, media reports say she says the little chapel on the corner of Pearson and Flushing is packed with mourners, with people spilling out into the gravel driveway, craning to hear the service inside. There are kids from my high school and gawkers from out of town, and Tammy and her mother sit in the front row next to Gloria, mother and daughter, and Guardian United, enjoying their brief moment in the spotlight. They have meetings with crime show producers already booked. Last week they gave an interview for one of those weekly tabloid magazines. I don't mind. I like to give them something outside of this town, outside of these people. Tammy was always good to me. Perhaps this is a chance for her mother and Gloria to do better too. In the interview, Gloria spoke about my mother. Things I knew, the extreme violence of her childhood, the disintegrations of home and family until she ran away at 18 years old, and no one bothered to come for her. The way she brought me up on her own from there, wanting, Gloria said nothing but the best for Alice. Things too I do not know. How that traumatized child never really grew up. How my mother suffered from breaks in reality I must have thought were games at the time. She did it, it turns out, whatever she could to ensure my safety, from dealing drugs to sleeping with cold old men for money, forgetting to protect herself and getting deeper and deeper into trouble with her own mind and the law. Not even Gloria could say what caused my mum to pull the trigger that afternoon, but she did say this: I know that women love her daughter with all her heart, at least now they can be together. Mr. Jackson does not attend the funeral either. He is already long gone from town. House packed and makeshift studio closed. He won't be returning to school in the fall. Impossible now, with all those rumours buzzing about him. Most of the young girls he taught scoff at the idea of this man taking advantage of Alice Lee, more like the other way around. Some of them say because they like him better, unaware of the tremble under my skin when Mr. Jackson first asked me to take my clothes off. These young girls can't understand. You sometimes say yes as a means of survival until it is theirs turn to say yes, some say. At any rate, my teacher has gone to ground. He will emerge eventually with his own story to tell, a wound that will draw other young women to him, call them over. There's a girl he loved and she died. He will tell them, rearranging the truth until he believes it, convinced he seeks solace, not power, when he takes another 17-year-old girl into his arms and into his bed. One of these girls eventually will share her story. This time, their people will be people looking for her, and when they find her, there will be another knock at Mr. Jackson's door. That knock won't happen for some time yet, but you can hear it well enough, can't you? Now that we know what to listen for. My friend go down to the river tonight together. It is the first day of summer. A whole season has passed, and the sky is blue, bright. Noah carries long stem roses, a rainbow mix of colours. Ruby holds a small silver padlock close to her chest. They greet each other warmly and hug. Franklin has a purple scarf tied neatly around his furry neck. There are a lot of people out and about on this clear day, as Noah and Ruby weave around children and dogs in fields with baseball games in their 5th and 6th innings. Ruby is once again struck by the idea that people actually go about their lives up here. Neighbourhoods full of children, families and sport teams and pets, hours spent together in a communal background. They walk past, one of the dog runs off their leashes. A clamour of pups and old mutts rushed around, chasing balls and tails and each other. Ruby stops a moment at the fence, thinks of me, considers how she might have jogged right past me at this very spot someday. Imagine the striking young blonde girl calling back a wayward big war pug, lunging for a designer leash, dogs circling around her. Noah sees these two, the might have been of this meeting, and gives Ruby a gentle nudge with his shoulder. They keep walking towards the water. Both Ruby and Noah grow silent as they approach the little beach. The river is calm today, their view clear across to New Jersey. To Ruby, those wooden posts poking up out of the water still look eerie, a reminder of hidden depths. But aside from these markers, she acknowledged there is nothing extraordinary about this place, nothing good bad or mysterious, this place would have remained one small innocuous part of a sprawling city park, where it were not for an angry entitlement and an April morning when life stopped and started all the same time. Are you all right? Noah asks, bright, beautiful flowers framing his face. Ruby nods. I was just thinking how this place is really nothing special. She looks down at a discarded juice wrapper flooded on the rocks. I would have run past here a thousand times and never given it a thought. And yet she turns to Noah, fingers pressed tight around the padlock. This is also the most incredible place. It's where I found Alice. I felt so guilty at the time, like I should have done more. But what if I'd kept on running that day? What if I never stopped? Can you imagine what I would have missed? Can you imagine? Noel repeats, before taking one of his roses and tossing it into the river. They watch as the flower bobs around a bright yellow star, dancing across the murky water. Silently they throw the remaining roses over the railings, one by one, bright, beautiful colours suffusing the dark surface of the Hudson. As the last of the flowers land on the water, Ruby crouches down and clips the padlock around a wire at the base of the middle railing, feeling the click as it closes shut, tracing her index finger over the letter A engraved on its shiny surface. On the path behind them, a child shrieks, giggles, and Ruby stands up, taking a deep breath. New York City filling her lungs. Thank you, Alice Lee, she says quietly, and then she turns from the rocks from the river and walks away. If I had lived. The woman sits down on the park bench next to me, tries to catch her breath. She has been running south along the river, forgetting she would have to double back until she had gone just that little too far, almost past the cruise terminal. Now she's got her head between her legs, willing everything to slow down, and she might not have noticed me today, but for Franklin's sticking that wet nose of his against her lower cheek, his welcome sign. She jerks up his touched, startled, but then her face softens into a smile. Hey there, young man, she says, scratching behind the grinning dog's ear. Your dog, she laughed, turning to me, is quite forward. Oh, he's not mine, I started to say, but this is no longer feels true. Instead, I smiled back at her. Yes, Franklin is a true New Yorker. Knows what he wants, something I have to yet to master, the woman responds. Where are you from, then? I asked, struck by her accent. Who knows? Sometimes, she answers, and we looked at each other. Really, truly for the first time, sky and earth meeting. I'm Alice, I say, holding out my hand. Ruby, she responds. I'll touch a small spark. I just moved here a month ago, she continues, and we soon discovered we arrived on the same dusky night, on the cusp of the same rainy spring. I ran away, I confess, and she tells me she came here to get away from someone I met. Me too, I exclaim, finally playing the right kind of snap. You did. How old are you, Alice? Ruby asks, her eyes raise. I'm 18, I'm 36, so you're exactly half my age then. Or you're exactly double mine. I shoot back, and I know that in the way she laughs that we're going to be friends. We talk on that park bench for at least an hour, Franklin at our feet, shifting his water graze between us. We discuss our strange new city and the places we left behind, and we dance up to the edges of the men we came here to get away from. It's complicated, she says. It sure is, I reply, knowing I will get to tell her the full story someday. We stay chatting so long that when a raindrop unceremoniously pops against Franklin's head, we are both surprised to see the sky has gone dark. Heavy rain on its way yet again. I got stuck here in the park recently on one of those really stormy mornings, Ruby says, holding her palm out in front of me, her feeling the air. I admit it was kind of scary, but being out here alone last Tuesday with all the thunder and lightning, I asked, silently, snap. I was out here too, taking pictures of the storm. Maybe not my smartest idea, but the photos turn out really great. What doesn't kill you and all that? You should be careful, Ruby starts and then shrugs. Actually, you seem like a girl who can take care of herself, and I'd love to see your picture sometime. She looks thoughtful now. It's nice to know I wasn't out here all alone after all, Alice. If I had somebody else not decided for me that morning, we might have discovered we were looking for each other the whole time. We might have met and shared our stories in a different way. That Ruby would be the only one to find my body. This is one of the two most remarkable things. That way she stayed with me, took me home up with her, suffered the nightmares and confusion, lived with my questions on her own. She pushed through her own wild ways and kept me afloat there beside her before she even knew my name. Strangers can change your life, isn't that the truth? I changed the life of Ruby Jones for the better, I hope. even though there must have been times when it didn't feel like it, when she might have preferred to keep the sorrow of her simming instead of having it all boil over the way it did. And Noah placing that ad, knowing someone like me would come along. Noah with his IUs and his smiles and his New York lessons, telling me all the things I wanted to know and some of the things I didn't. I changed his life too. I know it pulled him back into the world right before I was pulled out of it. I only wish we'd had more time together before it happened. That and I should have known from the start. Noah never stopped waiting for me to come home. Ruby and Noah. My book ends in New York. Think of all the risks they took when they let me in, how far they had to travel to meet me, so that when the two of them finally came together, all the little pieces of me came together. Pull the world into you and nothing seems so far away anymore. You need to join Death Club, Noah. Ruby repeats the invitation offered up to her lifetime ago, before she knew my name, before they knew each other, and Noah accepts the offer because he's lonely as she was back then, and because sometimes you get out of your own way, sometimes you follow yourself home. The other Death Club members are excited to meet Noah and agree to this spontaneous meeting at the dive bar near Riverside, my local. Ruby explains, texting the address. Come take part in our memorial for Alice. One rule only, that this she will enforce until she are ready, until the trial and resultant conviction make him impossible to avoid. No speaking about the other man, please. I watch as each member of Death Club arrives, leaning and tumbling through the door, and the fine dust of every dead person she has ever worked on surrounding her, as close to a nebula as anything I've ever seen on earth. Sue arrives next, all that latent mother love and concern preceding her. Then Josh, hastening to the bar, thinking of Ruby's mouth against his, the way she wraps herself around him so that his whole body looks like fireflies as he walks towards her this warm June night. They greet Noah as if he is a long-lost friend. Nobody minds the sticky floor and the uneven chairs and the distracted barman watching his game. These 5 members of Death Club, 6 if you count Franklin, lying at Noah's feet, are simply glad to have found each other. Dotted around the table, they look like a constellation, and I trace the pattern they make, memorize it, knowing as hours pass, as they grow brighter, that something is changing this night. They are talking about me in different tones. Mystery and urgency has been replaced by sadness, poignancy. If I had lived, but I did not, I was murdered down by a river while I was going about my life, loving the sky and the rain, the Noah, and this newfound feeling I might yet get to have a happy life after all, if I can make it there. And I so very nearly did. I think I understand that they no longer wonder who I am. Tonight they get to remember me instead. So what happens next? Is it Noah who poses the question, as I knew he eventually would? Where do the dead go? Are they lost to us, or are they still here with us now? Can both be true? Sue asked in response, thinking of Lisa and those rare, beautiful times she has turned to her mother in dreams. I'm not the only one, it seems, who shows up in this way. As I consider this, I catch a glimpse of Lisa herself, somewhere not too far from here. She's really beautiful, and though I cannot be sure, it looks as though she is holding out her hand. Something is changing this night. Well, basic physics tells the energy is constant. Noah responds in this familiar, easy way of his. It can neither be created nor destroyed. It simply changes state, finds its expression elsewhere. Thinking about it that way, every atom of Alice has always existed, always in one form or another. This means she's everywhere now, not just in one place as we are. The idea that I don't have to choose, that I can leave and still be here at the same time. Okay, I feel the tension on my system start to slacken. I look at Ruby, soft tears tracking down her cheeks as she considers Noah's word. She has her own choice to make, I know, whether to leave New York or set down roots, stay. We arrived here the same night, we left the same things behind, and we have both spun past where we used to be. Perhaps I want to say to her now, the decisions we make next won't really matter. If you remember to look up, you see the sky changes anyway. Even when you think you're standing still, the world keeps turning. Go or stay. Ruby, we are both already somewhere new. I should not be surprised at the next part. The feeling my mother's hands in my hair. The members of death clubs are discussing science and heaven, and the times they are certain they hadn't heard us, the dead, whispering to them. I've so often felt she was here with me, just out of sight, Ruby says, and I feel as if I'm dissolving. Only this time I don't fight it. It is like falling asleep after the loveliest, longest day. It's getting late. Drinks are scattered across the table, and the bartender has put on a playlist of soul classics or just the right volume. Sam Cooke, Al Green, Marvin, Aretha, Otis. Try a Little Tenderness is next. Down by the river, water laps at a rainbow of brightly coloured roses as gentle waves pick them up and carry them towards the open sea. We do get wearied, girls like me. Josh reaches for Ruby's hand and the sky changes yet again. Thank you for listening. Hope it helps you sleep.